Today's podcast is brought to you by the Herzog Foundation. Lynsey Gollehon is a former ER nurse and a mom who, by her own admission, could not relate to moms who had suffered from postpartum depression. Well, then she gave birth to her third child. The natural bond she had felt with her first two children was missing, but she was too ashamed to tell anyone about it. Her postpartum depression story and recovery is coming up next. Welcome to the Moms for America podcast. Each week, special guests tackle the issues facing the moms of America today. Discussions include personal stories and advice on how moms can build a strong foundation of faith, family, and freedom in their homes and country. Hi, moms. I'm Debbie Corlitis, your host, and welcome to the Moms for America podcast. I'm so glad that you're joining us again this week. It's always an honor to chat with you and discuss such important issues. Each week, we as moms, we get together to inspire, encourage, and educate moms in their journey through motherhood. So welcome once again. Well, as we talk about motherhood, that motherhood journey includes a topic that a significant number of new moms have suffered from, and that is postpartum depression. Lynsey Gollehon is one of those moms. She is the founder of Behind the Smile, a postpartum depression and anxiety support organization. Lynsey also holds the title of Mrs. Virginia International 2024. Well, welcome, Miss Lynsey. Welcome to the Moms for America podcast. I'm so glad to have you on our show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. First, can we talk a little bit about the family? We love to meet everybody's kids and hubby and all that fun stuff. Tell us about your group.
Sure. So we are a group of 5. I have what I like to say, my best friend of my husband for 12 years. We've been married. We'll be 7 in August, so just a couple of days away, 7 years of marriage. And together we have 3 kiddos. We have Hayden, who's 8 years old, Turner, who also goes by Bubby, and he is 6. And then we have our little wild Macy Kay, our girl, and she is 3, almost 4.
Oh, you're busy, but you love it. Those are the special days. I know everybody tells you this. They'll be grown and gone before you know it. Seems like just yesterday for me. So
Yes.
It goes fast.
It does. It does.
All right, let's talk a little bit. We're going to hear your story. We teased it in the beginning of the show and what you've done with your title. But I'd like to talk about Mrs. Virginia. You're the reigning Mrs. Virginia right now, international. How did that come about? And, what has your reign been like? Let's learn about that because of that is kind of how you decided to share
Yes.
your personal story and really become a resource for other women. So go ahead. Tell us about Mrs. Virginia.
Absolutely. So I am part of the International Pageant System, which is a platform-based system. And I never pictured myself being here, if I'm being honest. But I went to the International Pageant last summer, so in 2023, to support a friend who was representing as Miss Utah at the time. And I fell in love with the pageant system itself because it is nothing more than a group of women that are on a mission to change the world one day at a time. Whatever their platform may be, they're just making a positive impact on the world the best that they can. And so once I realized that it was so much more than just pretty faces and pretty dresses, I wanted to be part of it. I just wasn't quite sure where to start. So my pageant coach, Jerry, took me under her wing and was, trying to prep me, getting me ready for it. And she was like, well, what's something that you would like to make an impact with? And I immediately went to my postpartum journey with my daughter, Macy. And I knew that that was something that I had been through, had overcome, and I had a story that needed to be heard to help other women avoid what I went through to the best of my ability.
Wow.
So that's how I came up with Behind the Smile.
I love it. And I do know a lot of people just really do misunderstand a lot of the pageant system. I've been involved with it myself, and there always is a cause. You're always there to make an impact. You're always there to really help contribute to the culture and to to other women. So good for you. And that's
Thank
why
you.
we're here today talking.
Yep.
Because you decided to step out and share your story and help others. So let's get into your story a little bit here now. You were a mom of 2 young boys. You didn't experience any postpartum with the boys, correct?
No, none at all. I have anxiety that I am already diagnosed with, but I didn't suffer from anything out of the norm. Nothing extreme, nothing that would technically classify as related to my postpartum.
Right. We're all a mess when we have that baby. That's just a given, right?
It's just life.
Yeah. But postpartum is a very real issue. I'm thankful I didn't deal with that either. Although I do remember one time I thought maybe I was getting it really bad. I asked my husband if I could just go to Walgreens, and I walked
Mhm.
around Walgreens, I think, for 3 hours because I just was like, I got to get
You
myself
do what you got to
together.
do.
You do what you gotta do. Alrighty, so the boys were good, you had no problems bonding with them, no postpartum there, and your experience was great as a mom.
Yes.
As an ER nurse, you had, encountered women who had postpartum depression in your profession,
Mhm.
so you were familiar with it, correct?
Correct.
And
Correct.
did you think that as far as postpartum, did you have any thoughts on that? You just had heard about it?
So typically, whenever I would encounter women or family members who would discuss postpartum depression, anxiety, or worries that it might be leaning in that direction, typically they were kind of at their peak. They were at their breaking
Mm,
point. We see people in the ER at their absolute worst moments of their life. So I wouldn't say that they were coming at a time where they were just kind of
right,
recognizing it, looking to get ahead of it, avoid it. They were at their absolute breaking points.
yeah.
And even as a mom, I just couldn't understand how someone could feel those things or think those thoughts. I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. But I had never been in their shoes. And
Right.
as a nurse, you try to be empathetic, but as a mom who had never been through that, I just couldn't comprehend it.
Yeah.
And so I hate to admit it, and I'm embarrassed to admit that then I was judgmental. And I think that healthcare in general, those who aren't experienced with it, it's stigmatized. And that's
Yeah.
something that I can now admit that I was wrong in thinking too.
Right. And I think all of us can, just like anything, you kind of just like, you'll get over it, buckle up, you're in for the long haul here,
Yeah.
just figure it out. And sometimes you just can't figure it out. So
Mhm.
let's talk about your situation in your third pregnancy. So now you got pregnant with your third baby. You were in the midst of work. You kind of had a stressful situation with your pregnancy with your girl, right?
Mhm. Yeah. So I was pregnant with Macy and I was due in late September. And I had always worked up until delivery. I was an ER nurse with all three children, and the healthcare industry alone is just it's a
Mm,
mess. And I never wanted to be in a position of leaving my coworkers shorthanded. So I worked as long as I possibly could because that also saved me more time in my FMLA with my children. So I worked up until delivery. But with Macy, I was put on what we call, I guess you would just say, I was taking it easy at work, right? Staying off my feet as much as possible, just trying to do the bare minimum to
mhm.
get me through. I had a lot of swelling, a lot of things there, so I was a triage nurse most of the last couple
Oh,
of months of my pregnancy. And I had some issues at work. I won't go into very deep details in regards to that, but there were some toxic work environments there, some
okay.
issues with management, and we weren't in a good place. And I would almost consider it bullying and borderline harassment at the time.
Oh, that's great to
And
have when you're right, 7, 8, 9 months
30
pregnant. That's the last thing
38
you
weeks.
need.
Yeah, 38 weeks pregnant, and I was being induced the next week, and I come into work a normal day of the week, and I get called to my manager's office, and I'm being told that I'm being terminated. And everything in that day is a total blur because
Sure.
all I could think about is I'm having my third child next week. How am I going to support my family? How are we going to pay the bills? How am I going to pay the hospital bill? I'm being induced. Everyone knows the cost of a delivery.
Sure. You're going through a panic, literally.
I mean, pretty much a panic attack in that day. I called my
Yeah.
husband on the way to the car and I told him, I was like, they're terminating me. And he misunderstood me and thought I said terminating the pregnancy. So he was panicking because he thought something was wrong with Macy. And it was
Bad day. Bad day.
total chaos.
Okay. So now you get released, you get
Mhm.
terminated, you go home, you give birth to Macy, and how that all went all fine, right?
Yes,
And
delivery was
then
great. We had a couple of issues with her having a hole in her heart, had to have some echoes and things done, some breathing issues. So thankfully, everything turned out fine there.
we all know how, tough this is. I mean, it's tough when you're just having the baby and the family, the kids, the mom, the dad, everybody. But you now are having you had the baby, you have the stress of the work environment or not having a job, trying to figure out what you're going to do with work. So a lot of anxiety is what I'm
Mhm.
getting from this story. And so you kind of felt like things were a little bit different with Macy as far as your bonding with her.
Right. So I went into my delivery and the only goal I had was to get through that delivery as quickly as possible because I needed to put in an appeal for my termination, and that was an in-person appeal. I needed to have a meeting, and my only thought was I have to get my job back. And that's all I could think about.
So that really kind of overtook your joy
Everything.
of
Everything.
becoming a mama for the third time and a mama
Mhm.
of a baby girl, which had to be extremely exciting.
Yes.
So that really stole it, and you just quite. It's I'm wondering if it's kind of like this path started with you, and you couldn't get off of it until you recognized it, and it was kind of far down the road, right? You just had a hard
Yes.
time with the baby, you had a hard time being a
Mhm.
mama, a brand new with a brand new baby.
Right. And I like to think of myself as a very resilient person. So I didn't put two and two together until a few weeks after Macy was born. I just thought, oh my gosh, this transition from two to three is so hard. I didn't
Right.
realize it was going to be this tough. And I just kept pushing all the realities to the side and making excuses because that's what we do.
Right.
We find a reason for everything we feel and everything we think. There has to be a
Right.
reason, right?
And you're
We're
still
fine,
caring for everyone
good.
else like moms do. So you
Yes.
kind of put yourself at last as a lot of
Yep.
moms do. What symptoms were you having? What were you noticing that was different third time?
So I actually went back to work. I ended up going through the appeal process and I didn't care about anything postpartum. I wasn't worrying about my health, how I was healing, how we were nursing. I wasn't caught up in any of that like I was with my boys. I just wanted to get to that meeting and get my job back. So fast forward, we go through the appeal process. I do end up getting my job back. And I went back to work 2 weeks postpartum. As fast as I could get there, I went back to work.
Wow.
I wanted my normal back. I wanted to know my job was safe, that my coworkers were good, that I was doing my part at my job. Because in my brain, I didn't think I would ever have a chance to be back there. So I wanted back as quick as possible.
And you left baby
So
with dad?
so baby was with dad and he's actually a paramedic, so he works 24-hour shifts, but he had a little bit of time off too, but I pretty much told him, I'm going back to work. We'll figure it out, do the dad thing, right? And I would be gone for 12 to 14-hour shifts, and I would come home, and the first telltale sign that something was drastically wrong was I would come in the door, I would put all my breast milk in the refrigerator from the day, I'd tell him to make her a bottle, and I would go to my boys. So I didn't have a desire to nurse her, hold her, see her, comfort her.
How sad. Was that breaking your heart?
It,
Or did you
internally,
know
I
then? Or did you
knew
know then?
I knew something was off,
Correct.
but
Right.
I didn't dwell on it. I would still acknowledge her, but it was after the boys. She was last on my list all the time. But then I started to
Mm,
notice more symptoms that were triggering my anxiety. She was a colicky baby. So her cry triggered me. Her cry made me cry. It made me feel tense inside. I just
I can understand
felt
that, yeah.
this burning, drowning feeling when she would cry. And so that was another symptom that stood out a lot to me.
So really, it sounds like I'm not sure if this is true. You kind of ran back to work, almost like that's your,
Absolutely.
yeah, you didn't have to deal with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I didn't have to
Yeah.
face it.
Right. So
Mhm.
now your husband, does he notice all this is happening
I would
clearly?
say that he did, and we've had talks about it, looking back, we had conversations where he would be like, "Are you sure you're good? Are you okay?" But that's where it comes into play of how can your spouse support you without
Hmm.
pushing, without triggering you, without judging you or questioning your ability. He just didn't really know how to tiptoe around my feelings as sensitive as I was because he knows me more than anyone, right? So he knew I wasn't myself. He just didn't know how to approach me about it.
Right. And he's probably like, most of the husbands are trying to give you grace.
Right.
She'll snap back. She'll
Yep.
figure it out, and
I mean, I
so,
always had, so
right. But you didn't snap back, right?
no,
No.
no,
So what
I did
happened? I
not.
see something here about a 6-week postpartum appointment. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of steamrolling. It's not getting
Yeah.
better,
So
right?
we went for our post delivery appointments for Macy for her newborn screenings, and you have a typical, most women have their 6-week follow-up appointment to kind
Hmm.
of get cleared after delivery, right?
Right.
And there's a survey that I took at my OB office, and it's kind of like a fill in the bubble.
Hmm.
How are you feeling? Are you having any sadness?
Right.
How are you sleeping? I knew what this survey was. I'm
Sure.
I'm an
You worked in
I'm a
the
nurse.
right. You're
I
in the
knew
industry.
I
Yeah.
knew this was evaluating my mental status.
Sure.
And I was way too smart to fill in my true feelings and thoughts because I didn't want to be judged by that doctor no more than I wanted to be judged by my husband, my best friends, my parents. I didn't want
Right.
to be
There's
judged by
shame.
anyone.
There is a shame
I
with this, an
Yeah, and
embarrassment.
I know that because I have felt that way when I saw other women answer those questions.
Mm.
So I knew what they were going to think about me. And I say knew, but I can't assume that my doctor was going to think that of me. He takes great care of our family, but I just didn't want to feel that shame. I didn't want to answer the truth because honestly, I didn't want to admit it. So I lied. I circled all the answers that I needed to breeze through and
Right.
be like, I'm
Happy,
fine.
good,
We're
fine.
great.
Yeah. Right. We're
We
great.
are
And you're
great.
right. And you're crumbling inside. When did you start to get some recovery? When did you really break down and say, "Hey, something is not wrong." The number one thing should be your babies.
Hmm.
And you knew that your babies were not number one. Your baby was not number one. Your boys,
Right.
like you said, you were running to them, but that
Hmm.
baby was complicating you. And she
Right.
should have been your focus at that moment. You should
Hmm.
have been able to enjoy that cuddle, that
Yeah.
smell, all those wonderful
Hmm.
things. And you're being robbed of it because of
Yeah.
this anxiety and depression that's
Hmm.
happening. So, how
Yeah.
did
So
you
I
get
kept
help?
I kept pushing through. Our breastfeeding journey ended earlier than with my boys. I only made it about 3 months, and I'm sure that has to do with our lack of bonding. My milk supply was not great. I wasn't nursing her as often as I needed to be to keep my supply up, and I wasn't really sad about it. And I'm a CLC. I'm very passionate about breastfeeding, and for me to just not care, I was
Mm.
like, what is going on? And so it actually took until about 6 months of her age for me to just be like, I'm not the mom to her that I wanted to be. I did all the things, she was healthy, she was happy, dad was her best friend. He was the one that consoled her. If she cried at night, I nudged him and I was like, hey, Macy's crying. He could go get her. I just didn't have that urge to be her person.
And he was bonding with her.
Absolutely. And still to this day, I'll tell you that she is a daddy's girl. I can't assume that that is why I'm a daddy's girl, but I didn't go through these issues or my mom didn't have this with me, but she's very much a daddy's girl. And I love that. I do.
Yeah.
But I can't help but question at 3 years old, did what we go through together hurt our relationship long term?
Mm.
I can't help but question that.
Yeah. I'm sure that's heavy on your heart too. And this is why we want to do this podcast, is because
Mhm.
if moms are dealing with this, we want to get this out. We want to talk about it. We want to get this signed, sealed, and delivered better on the front end. That's why I'm so glad for the information that you're providing. I've even heard horrible stories. I mean, yours is detachment. And I know
Mhm.
that there are all kinds of issues. I like to talk about those because sometimes you probably didn't think this was postpartum because it's maybe not the common. I have even
Right.
heard, people just saying, "Oh my gosh, somebody's got to come in here and take this baby from me." Maybe they're colicky, maybe the mom's not feeling
Mhm.
good, the depression, the anxiety. I feel like I could hurt the baby, or I feel like I
Yeah.
want to throw the baby out the window. I mean, you've heard
Mhm.
these crazy stories about people just like, "Wow, I got to get this together."
My
I'm not
brain
in a
did that often.
yeah,
I
I'm not in
had
a good
time.
spot. I'm not in a good
Yeah.
spot. Right.
I had a time where my husband actually came home from work one day from his 24-hour shift, so I had been home with her for a full 24 hours, and he came home to me doing jumping jacks in the living room with her and a carrier attached to me, and we were both just sobbing, crying, and that
Mm,
was me at my peak. I was just like, "Take her off of me. I don't wanna touch her. I don't wanna hold her. Please just make her stop crying." And
yeah.
she just wasn't feeling that bond and that love, even though we were physically touching, she wasn't getting what she needed.
So what did you do? How did you get this all how did you work through this?
So, I'm one of the blessed ones that time healed me. Not everyone is that
Your
not
hormones.
everyone is that lucky or blessed, and that's just my case. I ended up going back on my regular anxiety medicine about 6 months when I started admitting to my doctor that this is how I'm feeling. It's been going on for a while. I've been hiding it from you. It's worse than I realized. I'm asking for help.
So your hormones balanced out, you took some anxiety medicine, and you got to a better spot, and you recognized it,
Mhm.
right? That's really the number one thing. So you can do things better and your family can work on it better. What are some of these other symptoms of postpartum depression that maybe moms could maybe identify?
So a lot of them are you've got common and you have uncommon symptoms, right? Some of your common ones is extreme fatigue,
Hmm.
irritability, anxiety. There's just, sensitive to smaller things that don't typically bother you,
Hmm.
like your baby's cries. If something is triggering you like that, there's just things that you need to recognize. Yes, I'm tired. Am I a normal mom tired? Or am I wanting to sleep to escape life?
Hmm.
Why are you really wanting to nap?
Right. You have here feeling lonely, numb, or empty.
Hmm.
I mean, a lot of these things people can really relate to trouble sleeping, lack of interest in your baby, anxious around your baby, just like you had,
Yep.
loss of motivation.
Yep. And that can come from simple things too, like letting your house go, laundry backing up, dishes piling up, not having a desire to get dressed and go somewhere to eat or put yourself together or even shower.
Right.
Those were things that I didn't care. I was
Right.
happy just sitting on the couch, and if she wasn't crying, life was good.
Right. Right. And it is hard when you have a colicky baby that really does put you over the edge, or if they
Yes.
have any kind of health issues,
Right.
right? That's added stress, and you're just trying to love them
Mhm.
through it, but
Yeah.
it is stressful. So, what were the uncommon ones?
So uncommon ones are typically going to be a little bit more drastic, wanting to hurt yourself, wanting to hurt your baby, and just neglect, honestly. Like some of the extreme ones, and that's going to be further along in your journey. Someone may not have that when they first start having these symptoms of postpartum depression or anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah, it's scary. So let's talk about some of the things that you would suggest. So when you're in the midst of this, how do people come around you and help you? What's some of your advice to people that are either the husbands or the mothers of
Mhm.
maybe it's their daughter? What are some things that
Right.
people can do and say, since you went through this, what worked and what didn't work? I guess, honey, you're crazy probably doesn't work.
Yeah. No, no.
But
It would
but
not have been
yes, I
the
know, I'm
greatest
just saying,
conversation
but
starter.
yeah, you get to that point where you're kinda like, you're feeling crazy. Everybody knows you're crazy, but you don't know you're crazy kind of in these
Right.
situations because 'cause
Right.
you're really just trying to figure it out. So
Mhm.
what are some things that we can say to moms? And then I wanna come back and after this break and talk about your website and some of the things that you offer there. But what do we say
Yeah.
to each other? How do we help?
So the first thing that I would recommend is that you need to realize that she might not be ready to talk to you about it. You may
Mm,
recognize those signs and symptoms and that mom may be not be quite herself or acting like you would expect her to act with a newborn, or even a 6-month-old, a 1-year-old. Postpartum can last up to a year after birth. So it can happen at any point. So if you notice something is off, maybe it's just something simple where it's like, hey, can I hold your baby while you shower? Hey, do you want me to bring over dinner tonight? Don't ask if we want to go out to eat, because that might just push us over the edge to have to say no to you, or to have to pull ourselves together to go into public. So me personally, if someone would have just been there, and I not don't get me wrong, there were people that were there for me, but they didn't know anything was wrong because I had this beautiful smile on my face and had masked everything to look like everything is, what's the word? Fine.
Yeah.
Everything was great. So realizing that there's things that you can do and things that you can offer that might just take a little bit of weight off of her shoulders to be able to breathe a little bit easier to get through that day, that
Yeah.
moment. You don't need to heal her. You don't need to solve all of her problems and push her to the doctor or to a mental eval.
Right.
Just being a helping hand.
You know what, Lynsey, I like to just talk about too, before we go to the break. Working moms, I think just in general, we have to work through that better. We have to understand the home and the work, and that's tough. When
Yes.
do you go back? What's your
Mhm.
priority? And not go down the road of letting the career dictate, but yet you need income. I can understand why
Mm.
you were completely freaked out about that.
Right.
How, to working moms, there's one thing about moms and then there's one thing about working moms. And it's
Mhm.
really, it is another complication if you put in a full-time job on
Right.
getting back, healing, bonding, nursing, pumping, this is like a whole different thing.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I think that there's battles on both sides of that. Stay at
Yeah.
home moms who are isolated and have that constant need to do something, need to feel like they're valuable and an asset to the family, while also trying to feel like someone outside of mom and housewife. And then you've got the working mom who is wanting to feel successful in her career for the things that she's worked for and feel like an asset at her job without being distracted of being mom. But our brains never stop. Like, let's be honest, we're doing our job and thinking what groceries we need. We're doing our job while thinking who has baseball practice tonight, or who's got to be where, what do we need? Do the dogs have food? Who has an appointment? So trying to juggle all of that in your head while also realizing I'm not quite myself. It's a lot easier to be like, but I got to keep going. I know I don't feel really good, but there's things to get done. So we
Mhm.
just keep going. We put a smile on and just keep going.
All right. Well, we're going to head to a break. But before we do that, I'd like to invite all of you to like, subscribe, and share this podcast. We are getting shadow banned, and it's very upsetting. Vimeo had shut us down. YouTube keeps shutting us down. But this is how we get our information out, moms. Please like, subscribe, and share our podcast. This is how we help moms all across the country. Also, if you have an idea or a topic for a podcast, would you email me at podcast@momsforamerica.net? I would love to hear from you. Again, it's podcast@momsforamerica.net. We would love to have your suggestions and feedback there. Also, moms, have you joined the movement here at Moms for America? I would love to have you in our tribe with our sisterhood. We are moms all across the country, about 500,000 moms uniting. We're fighting for faith, family, freedom, and the Constitution. How do you join Moms for America? It's super easy. No cost, no fuss. You go to momsforamerica.us, you sign up for our newsletter, you check out all of our resources, and then we will communicate with you and let you know about all of our great resources, our webinars, our seminars, the pamphlets, the information that we have, the podcasts. We really have everything for you, Mom. We say this always, every issue is a mom issue, and we are here to help support you, be an encouragement, and be an inspiration. When we return, Lynsey will talk about how family and friends can support a mom who may be dealing with postpartum depression. Don't go away. Hi, moms. I'm excited to share some news about our new sponsor, the Herzog Foundation. We know you're passionate about raising patriots and empowering your children with the best education possible. And the Herzog Foundation shares that passion. They're dedicated to promoting liberty through education freedom and helping parents like you choose the best educational path. They offer a powerhouse of resources designed to support families and schools alike. Whether you're ready to dive in headfirst to the world of education or simply looking for more ways to empower your child's learning. From free training events to their must read online publication, The Lion, they're committed to keeping you informed about what's happening in education. Also, if you've ever thought, moms, about starting your own Christian school or co op, their School Box online course will give you everything you need to get started on the right foot. Again, we are so proud to partner with the Herzog Foundation, and we encourage you to explore all their amazing tools and the insights that they offer. So go ahead, visit herzogfoundation.com to learn more. You won't want to miss these incredible resources. Again, find it all out at herzogfoundation.com.
You know, I've never really felt comfortable sharing pictures of my kids on social media. Then I found Tuvu, a premium social app with an actual, authentic community. No bots, no one trolling me or my family. Just clean, wholesome content you can trust.
Lynsey, let's talk about how common this is. I mean, I know that a lot of people are dealing with it and we just don't talk about it enough. What are the stats?
Statistically, 1 in 7 women are actually suffering from postpartum depression and anxiety. But you also need to take into account that that's only the women that have been screened that answered appropriately on those surveys. You also have to take into account that there's a lot of women who never admitted what they were feeling and going through.
Yeah. And I think that that is the problem, that if they're not being transparent, right? There's only so much the medical field can do. I'm just wondering what your
Right.
thoughts are with the medical field. Should we do more afterwards with the mom? Should we have just a more candid conversation? We've got websites and information like yours, but I'm just
hmm
wondering, the doctors see them right away, the
Right.
mamas. I'm just curious if they should be doing more.
So there's only so much that you're going to be able to see in that
Right,
short time frame of a doctor's appointment, how they look outside, but you also can't judge by that.
right,
Being a new mom is hard. You haven't showered in a week. It's okay. We'll figure it out. You've
right.
got a colicky baby. Life is hard. It's okay. You can't judge that someone's suffering from XYZ just by looking at them and in that quick 30, 45 minute appointment, right? So that's why it's so important to share the common and uncommon symptoms that a mom may be going through so that her army and her village around her can recognize that and step in where it's appropriate to the best of their ability. Because that's when it might open up that mom a little bit to admit how they're feeling. So then it would be appropriate for a spouse or a family member to share that knowledge with a provider to help that mom when they're
Mhm.
ready to accept the help. Because if they're not accepting the way they're feeling, they're not going to be honest and they're not going to be asking for help.
I think too, this kind of brings up a little bit of a side discussion. When you have your first baby, you don't know what to expect. You
Mhm.
don't know if all of these feelings are just typical because you're just a hot mess anyways.
Right.
So to those first time moms, we want to reassure them that this is not, things like this, some of this touches you
Mhm.
as a new mom, but
Right.
some of the things they really, really have to be careful of. It's not typical to have those feelings. You should be able to
Right.
bond. You should be enjoying. It's busy. It's stressful. All that stuff. But
Mhm.
talk to those brand new moms, or that are maybe getting ready to have their baby. I think the first time moms are the ones that are the biggest mess
Mhm.
usually.
Yeah. So I'll be honest in saying that I'm the first to believe that every baby, you should be feeling like a first time mom because
Mm,
every phase of life that you're going to, whether it's first, second, third, fourth, fifth, however many babies you have, it's a new phase of motherhood. It's
right.
a new lifestyle that you're trying to manage. First time moms, you absolutely don't know what you're going into. You don't know how your baby is going to be. How are they going to sleep? How are they going to eat? What health problems might arise, you truly don't know. But in all reality, I thought I knew how to be a mom when I had Macy as my third. I thought I
Right.
had it figured out. And then
That
I
really
had
did
her, and it
blindside
was
you.
like, yeah, I had her, and I was like, do I even know what I'm doing? Can I be a mom of three? And those were thoughts that went through my mind. how do I not have this figured out by now? Why can't I do this? And I'm
Right.
sure I'm not the only one that's like, what's wrong with me?
And I think too, when I hear your story, circumstance
Mhm.
can really impact you on so many levels, right? The stress of the job, the stress of career, the stress of maintaining, losing and you're
Mhm.
like you're saying your third baby, all my babies were different. I was in a different spot now, all three of them. But
Mhm.
what your circumstance, what you're going through in your home can totally throw off all of your
Yes.
emotions and throw you into depression, whether you had a baby or not.
Exactly. Everyone's story and situation is different. There are so many variables. You can't predict postpartum depression and anxiety. You don't know if you're going to be the one that goes through it. And I sure did not think that I was going to be the one.
Hmm.
I did not think that I was going to be the 1 in 7.
Yeah.
And now that it was me, I'm more alert to those things to look out for. I'm looking for ways to help other moms and be that voice of reason that lets them know you're not crazy, you're not alone, and you don't have to admit it to anybody until you're ready. You don't. That's your right. But at some point, you do have to have a little bit of accountability for yourself. If you recognize these signs and symptoms and you
Hmm.
do want to be the best mom, wife, friend, provider for your children and your family, you do have to have that level of accountability to use the resources that
Yeah.
are available to you.
Let's talk about the resources that you provide now behind the smile. How do we get to this? And let's talk about what you provide there. And there's education, there's
Mhm.
resources, there's suggestions, there's advice. Because at the end of the day, we all mamas want to help each other out here. So
Mhm.
tell us about that website and what you provide there.
So I created the platform Behind the Smile, and it's exactly what it sounds like, behind the smile. You never know what's hiding behind a new mom's smile. You
Right.
never know until they're ready to admit it. So that's where the title came from. The website link is lynseygollehon.com, and we've got that listed here for you all so that you can click on that and get access to it. But there's resources on there for the women who are not ready to talk about what's behind their smile. But their
Mm,
resources are there 24/7 so that as you're ready and as you recognize, or even your family and friends recognize some of these potential common signs and symptoms that you have, what do we do with that information? Okay, I'm feeling XYZ. I see that that's on this checklist, which you can get to the checklist on the website. There's a checklist tab that you can actually print out, and it shows common and uncommon signs and symptoms of both postpartum depression and anxiety. So you can see the difference there. And a lot of them, you'll notice they coincide. You'll notice that some of
right.
them are on both sides. So you may have a touch of both, you may not. I'm not here to diagnose anyone. I'm here to help them recognize this is what you may be suffering from, and here's how you or your support system can help you get through it. And a
Hmm.
lot of these resources are pulled from Postpartum Support International, who I have partnered with locally and internationally to use the resources that are already available. You don't need a diagnosis to get help. The resources are there 24/7.
And what are some of those resources?
So on the tab, it's actually a resource tab up there near the
Okay.
checklist tab. And you'll see that there's a warm line, there's a hotline. All of those are available 24/7 for you to dial into. There are support groups that you can join both virtually and in person, and you can get
Okay.
access to those through Support International. But again, I was a person who I wasn't even ready to admit that I was going through these. So I sure did not want to be in a support group where I had to talk about it. But those resources are available for those that thrive in that kind of environment.
Okay. And so on the other hand, you would talk to your doctor, you would
Mhm.
maybe go to counseling. What are some of the other
Yeah.
resources if you're not doing something online? Because I agree. I would like to pastor,
Mhm.
church, women in
Yeah.
like what are some of those? Because we're looking for answers for them.
Mhm. So if you're not going to go through the support hotlines or through Postpartum Support internationally directly, you can go to your provider at any point in time.
Mhm.
You can start at an urgent care, you can start at an ER. All providers in any area in nursing or as a doctor are trained to recognize these signs and symptoms, and then they're going to be able to advocate for you appropriately to direct you and navigate you through the healthcare system to where is going to be a best fit for you, whether that's your OB, your primary care doctor, a mental
Mhm.
health provider, there's a lot of different avenues, but it starts with recognizing your signs and symptoms and asking for help.
Yeah. Why don't you just encourage our moms maybe that are listening, that hopefully somebody has shared this with somebody that maybe is going through postpartum, just mom to mom, about the importance of getting a hold of this and enjoying your baby and enjoying that
Yes.
blessing in their home.
Mhm.
So I'd love for you to just talk to that mom right now.
If there's one thing that I could share from what I have experienced, I wish I wouldn't have felt the need to be so strong. I wish I wouldn't have felt the need to mask all the things that I was feeling in order to make myself feel like I looked or was a good mom. I know deep down that
Mm.
I'm a good mom. I know that these babies were given to me for a reason, that I am their mom, and that I am always going to be everything that they need. But I cannot be everything that they need if I'm not taking care of me. And I know it is so cliche, the fill your cup in order to take care of others, but it is so, so true. The minute I started feeling like myself again, because was willing to share my true thoughts and feelings, was the moment I started to heal. Because if you keep all of that bottled up inside of you, it is so heavy and your days seem so much longer because you're spending so much energy trying not to let that out, to be strong.
Yeah.
So it's very, very hard, and the days are going to be much longer, and your healing time is going to be so much longer until you're going to feel like yourself again if you don't start the process. And it is hard. It is hard to admit what you're feeling and thinking, but you're not alone. You're never going to be alone, or what you truly feel and think are not absurd. I promise. There's someone else out there that is currently feeling that way, has felt that way, or will one day feel that way.
Yeah. Amen, sister. And I do want to just encourage those moms too, to reach out, to the women in your church and your circle, and have them pray for you and be an
Mhm.
encouragement. And if you need to cry, cry. But you just have to get help so you
Yes.
can just be the very best, like you're saying. I mean, that is such a gift to be a mother, and my heart
Mhm.
breaks that if you're heavy burdened and not able just to enjoy that blessing. How is everything going now with Macy? How is the family? You've worked through all this. I'm sure you're just like, thank God I got help.
Yeah, so I'm very, very grateful that I was willing to get through that. And 6 months is even that is a blessing. Is it a long time? Yes. Could it have been a lot worse? Absolutely. So
Yeah.
I'm grateful that my journey ended the way that it did. And I'm able to use that story to help others. But we're great. Everything is great. We're a thriving family of five. I say five. We also have two Great Danes, two cats. Like, we've got a whole zoo at our house. But
Nice. I love that.
she is my little bestie. We do hair every morning. We wear princess dresses and heels. She's doing her pageant in September, so she's everything that I could have ever dreamed of as my little girl. She looks just like me. She acts just like me, which is not always a blessing, but we are very type A independent girls. So everything's great.
All right. Give us that website one last time. Spell out your last name. Spell it all out, because I want to make sure people get this, because if they're listening, they won't be able to actually see it
Sure.
on the screen. Go ahead.
So you can visit Behind the Smile at lynseygollehon.com, and that's LYNSEYGOLLEHON.com.
Go ahead, check it all out, moms. Behind the Smile there, you can get really some great information. And, we want to have a smile on, right? We want to enjoy this thing called life that God's given us. And boy, if we can just shore up our homes and love our kids, and, just this is where it all matters, right, Lynsey?
Yeah,
This is where it all matters. And these four walls is the greatest work we will ever do.
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. It's the most fulfilling, challenging, difficult, fun thing that I've ever been blessed with the opportunity to do.
yeah. And God gives us these opportunities, I think, to get better and to
Yep.
grow and to be stronger and to rely on Him, and just to, life is a journey,
Mhm.
and going through it sometimes isn't easy, but we
No,
get through
but
it.
I'm just so grateful to be able to turn my pain into purpose and sharing this with you all so that one day I'll be able to have that conversation. I already have. Like, the website has reached internationally, and I'm able to see as people visit the website where they're from. So it's been a really neat thing to see the reach of the internet, social media. Yes, my generation is high on social media, but look at the amount of people that it can reach and the people that it can help.
Yeah. And thanks to the pageant for giving you a platform and an opportunity
Absolutely.
to speak out. So, well, we appreciate you, and God bless, and super hugs to
Thank
the
you.
family. And we will be watching you and sharing this information with moms all across the country.
Thank you so, so much.
Thank you so much, Lynsey, and I so appreciate the work that you're doing. It is so important for us as moms to be encouraging other mothers, sharing our stories. I think stories are so powerful. I mean, they're so relatable and they're so important. So thank you for using your story. I know a lot of you out there have your own story. In fact, again, if you have a story that you would like to share, please contact me at podcast@momsforamerica.net. Any feedback, any topics that you would like. I'm always looking to hear from you. In fact, Pam will really appreciate that, our producer. So, some of the things I did want to mention that Lynsey talked about just real quickly is that, we should be the safe space. She has this on her website, which again was lynseygollehon.com, lynseygollehon.com. One of the things she really stresses on there is that people need to be safe spaces for other moms that are going through this. And that's really where the power is, right? We as mothers coming alongside of our friends, our sisters, and helping them. And I think that's what we do best. We can encourage and inspire them. We can be their safe space. We can pray with them. We can bring food. We can help babysit their children. I mean, motherhood is challenging. Think about the challenges that we're facing in today's world, in this culture. I've got the schools, teaching crazy liberal indoctrination. We've got the government trying to come in here and separate us from our children. They're getting right into our homes with the phones, with the cell phones, with the social media. All of these things are very, very difficult in today's culture. So I'm just not even talking about postpartum right now. I'm just talking about, if you're feeling heavy, please get help from someone, because you not only have depression and maybe anxiety when you're giving birth to a baby, right? The biggest challenge we have then is raising that child. So again, let's always be looking for help. Her website will help you, but again, talk to your pastor, women in your group, look for prayer, be transparent. If you do feel heavy in this world, as you're parenting the next generation, you're parenting the future. And that can sometimes be a heavy load, but it is the most important blessing that you will ever do. And when this world knocks you down, you just get right up and you pray through it, and you look for your sisters, just like us here at Moms for America, to help encourage you and inspire you and pray for you. I do want to mention that you go to our website, which is momsforamerica.us. You will find all kinds of great resources there. We have incredible podcasts. We have webinars that have been amazing. They're all recorded. We'll have seminars, all dealing with the topics that affect you as a mom. The greatest work you'll ever do is in the four walls of your home, and you are truly the greatest influencer of your children. So please check us out. We're here to help you. Every week, we're here to help you. Check out our blogs, check out our information at momsforamerica.us. There's no fee for joining Moms for America. We are literally here to serve you. All right, moms, I say this always: liberty begins at home, and that you are so special. You are so important. I do appreciate you here every week. We're making great strides. We're affecting our world, and we're changing our country, and we're doing that one home at a time. All right, moms, talk with you soon. We love you, and can't wait to talk next. Thank God bless. A special thank you to our sponsors, the Herzog Foundation and Tuvu. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Herzog Foundation.